Okay, so I did that little video post, whatever the hell it was, and I got a lot of comments, positive, but you know, addressing PTSD, and it's a lot more widespread than people like to let on. You know, doesn't matter if you're a convict or a war vet, a victim of some kind of violent crime. PTSD is very far reaching into our lives. For those of us that have been in war and prison or both, the daily diet of violence that you emotionally and psychologically digest, either as a participant or a witness there too. It's just, it's something that you keep on doing, and, there's no room for weakness. And at the time, PTSD is thought to be a weakness. So, you just you go through all these years of street violence, prison violence, maybe some combat before that, conflict battle. The bottom line is you just bury it, you suppress it, and until one day things change. All of a sudden, loud noises startle you in an instant, and in the next instant, you become extremely violent at the source thereof. You start becoming OCD oriented. You start mistrusting all kinds of people. Everybody's suspect. Your anger and rage just goes from 0 to 1,000 in the blink of an eye. And you keep it all inside because you can't have this self-accepted weakness that your peers or even your enemies can see. So you adopt and practice this visage, this front of equanimity, calmness under pressure and all that shit. But inside, it rages. And you come home, if you're lucky enough to come home, and you bring this shit home with you to the streets, and your family suffers for it. Your friends suffer for it, your neighbors. It's just like it's a silent killer inside your head, There have been days where it's like I'm anything but suicidal. I am not the suicidal type. I'm the hurt others type before myself. But I thought on any number of occasions, just the torment inside is just so loud and so violent in my head that it's like I tell Odin, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready. If I don't wake up tomorrow when I go to sleep tonight, I'm good with that, And it shouldn't really be that way. And I try to do something about that. And I do a lot of things to work through my PTSD. It's never going to go away. It's just going to be there for the rest of my life, however long or short that may be. It's going to attend me the rest of my life. And, I used to think of it as a terrible weakness, that I sit there and deal with it the way I do now is, that's nothing shameful at all. I just look at it as almost like a badge of all the crap I've been through. My brains aren't more scrambled than they are. The VA has been very good to me, and they've taken good care of me. But their mental health department is very lacking. They have start to finish programs to deal with PTSD, and like as if you can put it in a shoebox after 12 weeks or something. That's just not reality at all. That's some bullshit. And there's nothing, no matter what they do, exposure therapy. I've been through it all, and some of it's just made me rage even more. Had some really good doctors that I liked and even respected one of them, but their idea is their hands are tied. They've got this schedule that they abide by. When it comes to how to do this stuff, and they say 22 vets a day commit suicide. And I think it's probably more than that. And I can see I've called up certain parts of the VA. I've tried to access my healthy vet shit like that, and they streamline this program supposedly so it makes it easier. And in some places it's so much more difficult to get a hold of a real person. Just I could see if somebody was really weak like that and just feeling like they've had enough, I can see where that pushes them over the edge. I mean, it surely pisses me off, but I'm not weak like that, and I'm sorry for those that are, but nevertheless, I have these demons I deal with from 4 different parts of my life. I live my life in 4 segments. When I look back at my life, you know, between 15 and 21, between 22 and 30, between 30 and you know maybe 46, and between 46 to current time, 64, and well, it'll be 64 in 4 months. And, I just sit here and I look at this shit and I just keep working out and I just keep meditating and just keep going over all the crap that I've read and digested and learned along the way that was part of the Strong Soldier program. But the reality is, what, we're all human. I definitely am. And, I'm fortunate for the people in my life, the people I ride with, my family, the people I call friends, which aren't many. I just felt like, what, somebody needs to address something here, because I get these comments. It shows a whole lot more people are touched by this than, you know, than let on. And people close to them probably don't even know it because we all tend to seem to keep it to ourselves. I kept it to myself for years. I remember the first time I divulged it out loud, said it out loud to my wife. It was like it was a genie out of the bottle that couldn't get put back in now. And I thought to myself, wow, there I said it. It's real. And, the first time I had an inkling of it was probably in 1990 when I got out of the joint the first time. I was staying at my mom and dad's until I got on my feet and got my own place. And one night I was having this dream, nightmare, whatever you want to call it, that I was on the yard at Old Folsom and I was seeing everything that was happening to me. But they'd shot me so full of holes, and they had this backhoe in the yard, and they were burying me, and all these guards were standing around high-fiving and cheering that I was dead, and I guess I was thrashing around, and I hit the closet doors and knocked them off the tracks that they were on, and my mom and dad thought somebody was breaking in the house, and, I just stuffed that in my back pocket like it never happened, but that was my first inkling right there that I was carrying some kind of deep-rooted subconscious baggage. But I didn't really admit to anything because it was self-accepted weakness. It was a maladaptive deficiency amongst alpha males, especially in a world where there's so much narcissism. So I kept it to myself. I just kept on keeping on. All these years later, when I finally did admit it out loud to my wife, and I realized that there was a problem. Once that genie was out of the bottle, all of a sudden, all kinds of shit came back. Stuff from 1981 in El Salvador started happening. Nightmares from that. Other memories that I did suppress from down in Mexico, Mexico City, Tijuana. Things from the streets here in the States. Be they L.A. or New York or I couldn't keep them suppressed anymore. They were coming to the surface. I was not sleeping alone. I was sleeping with these demons, and it was just it was becoming horrific. I mean, sleep deprivation was an understatement. Being on edge all the time, clenching my jaw, being angry, just flash anger and rage. I've learned to deal with this a little bit more and more. I've read a whole lot of books. I've read a whole lot of things. A lot of it's garbage. It's bullshit. People profiting from this, internal turmoil and trauma that people, be they victims or warriors or whatever, suffer from. And some of it, there's some good shit though. I have to do an honest survey of myself, where I'm at, where I want to be, and get comfortable in my own head. And so try to live my life through amends today to pay for the wrongs I've done. Not all of them. Even though society would consider a lot of them wrongs, there's some things I don't consider wrong. Some things, some people were such pieces of work and such garbage. You just wish that they could meet their fate over and over and over again because they were such dog shit and did such horrible things to humans. But especially the kids and whatnot. But, you know, for the things that I considered that I knew were wrong, that I did, I try to make amends by helping those that are worthy of that help now. You know, make no mistake about it. I'm not an angel, by any chance of imagination. For those I love, I would do awful things. You know, but I try to live, a balanced life and try to be a true friend and true brother to those I call brother and friend. Guys I ride with, guys that I call my friends. I try to be a good husband. I try to, I'm a faithful husband. I try to be a good parent, good grandparent, and I try to be a good, solid sounding board and voice to those who I think enough of when they seek me out for any kind of advice or what it is that I found peace with. I try to reciprocate that gesture in a way of, living amends and paying it forward. There's just so much. It's like a ball of twine, like this big tangled up ball of twine. You get a little bit of it unknotted and you feel happy you got success one day, and the next day it's twice as knotted up and you're frustrated in such a dark place, and it's just so overwhelming and overbearing that you just want to just go nuts on things, but you can't. I hit my head on a cabinet or something like that, and my first reaction is instant. I'm looking for something to just drive a fist into, but you can't because there's nothing to drive the fist into. You're going to destroy your cabinet, destroy your property, fuck no. But it's just so frustrating, because that's my first reaction. Sometimes reaction is good to action. Most of the time it's not. It's better to respond, be responsive to situations instead of reactive. But, I work the problems the best I can. So far, so good. I'm winning the fight every day still. And, for those of you out there that look at these and identify with them and know exactly what I'm talking about because you experience the same things, you're not alone. You don't have to deal with it that way. And there's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong is what happened to you. Whether you've voluntarily participated in it one time or not, or whether somebody just was beset upon you as you were walking home from work or school at night. Whatever the case may be. I have nobody to blame for mine. I put myself in all these situations. I willfully engage in combat in third world countries, on the streets of my own homeland, and in prison. I'm not crying over spilled milk. I got nobody to blame myself. But the damage is still real. It doesn't matter if you own it or not. It's still something that you have to digest every day. You have to live with when you go to sleep at night. You have to get up and live with it tomorrow. Nobody but you will go to sleep with what you did today and get up and live with it tomorrow. That's the thing. All I know is when my time is up, when I expire from this mortal coil, I don't want to be the guy who says, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done that, I'm sorry I did this, I'm sorry I did that. I don't want to be the guy, if it takes 20 minutes to die, to say, yeah, hey, you know what, at least I did this way. I did it my way, and I made amends for this, and I did this. That's the guy I'm going to be. And if I die in a flash, well, then it doesn't fucking really make a difference, does it? So, either way, I try to work this. I try to work this situation as they arrive, and, there's usually some kind of calamity several times a day with this PTSD. You think you got some kind of new formula that, oh, this is working. And, 2 days later, you realize it ain't working shit, So, we're human. And every one of us has problems, no matter who we are. Those of us with PTSD, we just have a whole nother subset of issues we have to deal with. But we deal with them. And you'll deal with yours if you got them, and that's the true talk, right there, You just do what you got to do. And you keep on keeping on. And, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for some kind of mental health. It's out there, And there's people you can learn to trust again, especially those close to you. But those OCDs and that anger, that rage, that all that shit that comes with it. I don't see it going anywhere in my life if ever. I just have to learn how to live with it and coexist with it. And I start giving my little demons names, you know, because they're so present and prevalent in my life. But you know, I'm winning the battle today, and you are too, because you're still around to watch this. So, this is getting kind of longer than my usual posts. I didn't mean to post 2 times in one day. It's just, because I got such a response from that first post that I decided to do this. So, best of luck to you and good mental health, and, keep fighting the fight. Hey, Loden.